It was almost a decade ago now. I was a young and barely discipled believer with one foot in the faith and one ankle deep in the world's shifting tides. I'd never had the experience of discerning God's voice beyond the scriptures. But that changed one evening, and it was awkward. I'd just finished performing for a wedding reception at an American Legion hall. As I began the loadout routine, a young man in a stylish Stetson and a formidable belt buckle approached to share his appreciation for the music. And that's when it happened. I knew that I was supposed to share something, and it was something I dare not share with anyone beyond prayer with the omniscient one who already knew my struggles. The Lord was telling me to tell this gentleman I'd known all of 30 seconds about my bitter struggle with pornography at the time. So let me get this straight, Lord, I thought. You want me to tell some dude that I've yet to even introduce myself to that I'm struggling with the shameful and damnable sin of lust? I was appalled with both myself and the Lord's request. Sure, maybe if it was a war already waged or a campaign already completed, there's a noble nature to sharing the things that have been overcome, but what will be accomplished by sharing an account from a continually contested battlefield, still awaiting a defined victory in the matter? Indeed, we cheer the former addict that shares the ever-increasing duration since his last fix. But I imagine it would be a different story if the addict were to share that he shot up just before stepping into the spotlight. We appreciate the strength and transparency of the overcomer, yet we often count those remaining under the influence with disdain as weaklings or hypocrites. So there I stood, knowing I'd received a mandate from the one whose word says that all things work together for good in his agenda. To this day, I'm surprised that I obeyed. But I did. Hi, I'm Andrew and I'm wrestling with porn. Okay, it wasn't quite that dramatic, but it felt so in the moment. This was the first real act of obedient faith I can recall. I had to ask myself if I was merely a fixture on the diorama of church culture, or if I truly trusted the Lord. So I did it, expecting an awkward gaze and a hasty goodbye. But that was not the case. Indeed, the young man looked stunned but also convicted. We spent the next several hours behind the Legion Hall talking about our weaknesses in the Lord's love and desire to consecrate us. The young man had not yet given his life to the Lord, but had been the recipient of the gospel many times over the course of a few months. And what was his reason for not responding? He said it was a lack of authenticity and displays of hypocrisy from those telling him that he had to get saved. He said it was transparency that had begun to degrade the wall of hostility in his heart towards what he viewed as a collective of hypocritical churchgoers. In his heart, he'd known that he'd been at enmity with the Lord for a long while and had been trying to get to God by fighting the same battles common to us all. It was the Lord's leading with my struggles that initiated the understanding that we may come as we are to the Lord. Indeed, we are to pursue holiness and submission once we have embarked upon his path of sanctification beneath the umbrella of his adoption. He'd been fighting an unwinnable battle, for he'd been fighting of his own laurels. Once he understood that it was divine love rather than legalism that was the reconciling factor of the faith, he couldn't turn his heart over to the Creator fast enough. This encounter almost never came to fruition as I was inches from disobeying out of fear and shame. But what can I say? It was the best awkward experience ever. Not only did it serve to draw this wayward and weary soul into the household of faith, but it affirmed and strengthened my faith as well. I got to see the words of Romans 8:28 unfold before my eyes and see that trusting the Lord, especially when it makes no sense to our mortal minds, will yield triumph out of trial and victory out of victimhood. How many mutually edifying opportunities do we miss as a result of fear or shame or pride or unbelief and the like? How can we fully trust what is not tested? How will we be refined if too complacent or afraid to take the step into the furnace at the mandate of the Almighty, who will not leave our side therein or thereout? I must admit, I feel that I've missed as many opportunities as could be counted on the appendages of the world's populace, even following a handful of amazing encounters such as this one. How quickly we can discount the faithfulness and trustworthiness of Abba. It is my prayer for us all that we would be so surrendered, so totally trusting, and so discriminately discerning that the absolute center of the Lord's will would be our constant residence. For though we may be called to travel about the mission field, where the saint resides will remain steadfast and immovable, for it is upon the rock of Christ Jesus. To be very clear, this encounter in no way justified the very serious nature of the sin I was entangled in at that point. Indeed, a man cannot take fire to his bosom without being burned. Ultimately, the long-suffering Lord brought deliverance as I learned to lean on him. We should always be in the pursuit of holiness, not out of legalism, but that we may serve God acceptably and experience the fullness of his fellowship. And yet the Lord will even use those seasons of struggle to benefit and add to the household of faith when we respond to his leading to do so.